For approximately 20 years now, I've been designing and building furniture, demonstrating the strength, accuracy and versatility of the Dowelmax system. These designs have been somewhat elaborate, and recently I had a change of mind and a change of course to do a series of designs which would be what I would call no frills, but hopefully fairly attractive. The first design is a coffee table comprising approximately 21 separate joints. I have prepared all the necessary components, and in this next short video I will demonstrate the entire construction utilizing the Dowelmax system. Let's get started. Now this is a simple sketch of the coffee table arrangement. This is the front end with the long rail, and this is the first joint I'm going to demonstrate to you. There's a 3/8 offset, and there's going to be four 3/8 dowels installed. Now, first thing to notice is that there are 4 reference faces on this, and it doesn't matter where if it's flush or offset, it doesn't matter, it's all the same. Put 4 check marks, 2 on these 2 reference faces, and this end to this edge is a reference face, so you put 2 check marks on there. I use numbers because if there's 4 joints identical, it's easier to keep them separate. And also we usually put an X on the surface to be drilled. It's fairly wise to do that, because in some cases, more complex cases, it's difficult, it's easy to get them mixed up. Okay, now we'll do this one first. Now, as you probably know, there's corresponding check marks machined on the faces of the Dowelmax. It's just a case of aligning those with the ones we've marked. So this check mark goes to here, this check mark goes to there. Just line it up, get it flush. That's not of crucial importance. It's important, but not crucial, because it doesn't matter if you get this out, the joints will still line up. Now we're going to put 4 2-inch dowels on this. With the 2-inch against the 1.5 inch, you get about 10% more strength. So, but this joint here will fail in the region of 800 to 900 pounds shear load. So that gives you an idea how strong this is. As I said many times, this will take me about, to do one of these, will take about 3 minutes. And if I was to do this in a mortise and tenon, me personally, it would take me more than an hour, I'm quite sure. The first one anyway. Here we are. Okay, now I want a relief or an offset here away from the edge to make it look more attractive. So what we do is we install a 3/8 spacer, and that'll give you an exact 3/8 offset. Now once again, check mark, X. Now I'll have to open this up a bit. And we just perform the same series of drillings that we did before, obviously. Get it flush here. That's pretty good. Now, as I've said many times, this is all accurate within thousandths of an inch, which is the crux of the whole thing. Accuracy is proportional to strength. Accuracy is proportional. Okay. Now, this is 3. And then go to your check mark, install that. There you are, a perfect joint. Absolutely flush up at the top here. Now I've prepared one already here to give you an idea. That's it. That's the entire section finished. Now the next two joints I'm going to demonstrate are the end rails. That's this one here and this one here. And I'm going to offset them a bit more using the 3/4 spacer, which will push them further into the inside. This is to keep it approximately in the centre. We could centre it if we want, but we just want to bring it in 3/4, so that'll be the next joint. Once again, we two reference faces, the outside faces, 2 check marks. I must have that one wrong. Two check mark here, check mark there. Remember, don't worry about if it's flush or not, it doesn't matter. Check mark there and there. The end here to the edge of the rail, 2 check marks, and then an X where you're going to be drilling. Okay, let's take this one. Now, one thing I didn't mention before is that this is 7/8 wood. I sometimes like dealing with 7/8 thick wood, so it's more substantial. Now, in order to centre on that, we need to use a 16 spacer. Just slip it in between the reference bracket and the reference block. Remember the formula: half thickness, half of 7/8 is 7/16, less 3/8 is a 16th. So you need a 16 spacer in there. If you ever get a negative reading, you've got to go the opposite way. So the check mark to check mark, check mark to check mark. Just get it lined up here. That's good. So 1 by 2, this is 1.5 deep, so we can put 2 dowels on there. Perfect. Now, this is the other leg. Check mark, check mark. Now I've got a second one of these all set up just to save me a few seconds. As I say, I'm going to have an offset of 3/4 of an inch. So you just do the same thing, install that 3/4 spacer in between the block and the reference bracket. And I've also used a 3/8 spacer on this side just to give me an extra width here so that it will clamp on the workpiece. This is essentially a face joint, but we don't have to go into the second configuration for that. I'll show you that later. Now here we are, the check marks, the check mark, one here, up to here. That's perfect. Tighten them both equally. Remember, it's very important your wood is square, because if it's not square and you tighten Dowelmax, the device will go in the direction of the offset. Now the same again. I haven't repeated this one because this is identical to the one that we just did on the first demonstration. So I've pre-done these. So we're doing the same thing here, 1, 2, 4 and 5. Again with the 3/8 by 2 inch dowels. Now another good thing about Dowelmax is this next joint. The next one, this rail will be down here like that. No. Oh, like that. So we use the extended distance gauge to do that. We go to the last bore and we insert the extended distance gauge in that. Make sure it's absolutely square. And install Dowelmax. And bring it up to keep it to the center. Make sure it's snug. Tighten this. And this face here represents the top of the piece of wood, the rail. So that's where that will be. That's where dolls here. Check that to check mark. Yeah, this is so strong it almost doesn't need glue. It's absolutely solid. This is a final article. Perfect joints, no gaps. The next stop is the joining of all the pieces comprising the top. We have five sections here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these all have to be joined. Once you've milled your lumber and you've got these edges all nice and flush, so no gaps, make sure that all the edges along one end are absolutely square. In your table saw with your cross-cut sled, make sure that all of this is important because when you finish, you're going to be coming from this top end all the way down, and once you finish, it gives you a nice edge for finishing off, and it's also important for the placement of the dowels. I have known some good quality workers, woodworkers, to just put glue on these edges and clamp them. I have some trouble with that, especially with the thinner type wood. So I always do on a length like this 10 dowels, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 in tandem, and this is excellent. And also if your wood is slightly bowed, which it shouldn't be, but if it's slightly bowed, these dowels will bring them into line. Biscuits would never do that, but these will, because they're so accurate. Now, as I say, you always work from one end down. It's the same all from along here. So you get two, this is your join here, the two reference faces, 2 check marks here, and 2 on the ends here. And then also your crosses are X's where you're going to be drilling. And you do the same for each one. So I've already done one to save time, and this is the second one. Now it's 3/4, so we've removed the 1/16 of an inch spacer, and remember your check mark is here to the reference, and this check mark is up here. This is another use for the distance gauge. Now we're going to drill in 3 and 4. Loosen Dowelmax, move along, take your distance gauge, put it in the last bore, and make sure it's absolutely centered and level. And that's it, finished. Now, as I've always stated, for dry fitting I only install 50% of the dowels, because if I put this together with 10 dowels I'm never going to get it apart. So just 50% of the dowels. You can be sure that if these go in, if it goes together like this, it will go together with the 10. I can assure you. Now that is never coming adrift. And just carry on with the rest, doing the same thing, and join them as you go along. The next step is the construction of the lower shelf, and we try to keep the component light, so it's 1/2 inch thick. It's the very same procedure as for the top. We make sure we cut all these absolutely 90 degrees, make sure they're absolutely square and true, and then we do the edges to make sure there are no gaps when they're joined. And once again, these are 2 references. There's 4 of this lower shelf, 4 joints, 3 seams. So a check mark here, there, same here, or numbers, whichever you like. Now I've already done one to save some time. There is a slight difference here. With the 1/2 inch wood, you have to do your calculation. 1/2 inch halved is 1/4, minus 3/8 is minus 1/8. Now we have to, instead of expanding the vise, we have to sort of reduce the span. So what we do there, there's this accessory. It's got 2 little Allen screws, and you attach that, rather than spreading it, we reduce the span. So we put these 2 little screws on here and fix that to that, and that will center you on 1/2 inch wood. Very handy. Now we've done that one. Now this one is the first. And again, we've adjusted the distance gauge to suit this length. And the check mark here and the check mark there, That's pretty good. Once again, you want to come from the one end and work away in each one the same way. Now we're going to do 3 and 4. Start with 3 and 4. That's it finished. And tidy up the edges. Now once again, I never install 100% of the dowels when I'm dry fitting. You will always have trouble, but on occasion you'll have trouble getting it apart again, especially if you get two flush surfaces you're trying to pry apart. It's just not wise. Go to your numbers again. See how nice and snug that is. That's going nowhere, especially when it's got 10 dowels in there. That's nice, light, and nice finish. The next step is to join the lower shelf to the end rail. And since the width of the shelf is 1/2 inch, we're using 1/4 inch dowels. It's just a case of just unscrewing these guides and installing the 1/4 inch. Now the difference between the width here and the length of the rail is 1/4 inch, just to leave a bit of clearance on each side. So we need to split that. We need to come in 1/8 inch each side in order to keep it nice and even, and also to keep it, make sure it's not it's absolutely square. We've got to keep it absolutely square. We come in 1 inch and we draw a line on both the rails to make sure that we're absolutely square and true. Another thing to note here, that this is technically a face joint. So normally to do a face joint, what we do is we use these 2 holes here. We remove this clamp bracket in its entirety and bolt it onto there using the same screws. And then we finish up with this configuration, what we call the second configuration. And what that does is you're drilling into the face of the wood. However, in this particular, I'm just explaining that for future reference. In this particular case, we don't have to worry about that because it's only 1.5 inches thick, wide, and we can do it in the Dowelmax in its normal configuration. Another thing, this is 7/8 thick, so we want to make sure that we don't go right through. So in order to do that and not cut the dowels, I go 1 inch deep into the shelf and 1/2 inch into the rail. Now this is, you do your check marks as normal. Reference from the top, 3 and 4, come up to your line. I've already done this to save time. Drill 3 and 4. Then come along. Now the distance gauge in this case is set at 5 inches. So we install it, make sure it's centered, and then in this case we do 1 and 2. And then just to do exactly the same thing again. Come along here and again using your distance gauge, drill 1 and 2 again. That's it, finished. So we've installed all 6 dowels here because it would be fairly straightforward with respect to getting it apart again. There you are.